For today's DC Multiverse review, we are looking at the Red Platinum Edition Aztek. Before I talk about the accessories and the figure, let's take a quick look at the data profile card. As you can see, there is this beautiful comic book artwork of Aztek, and on the back side of the card, you do have a read-up for who the character is. It's quite lengthy, but I'm going to read everything anyways. And also, I do apologize if I do mispronounce certain names, because there are certain names on here that don't seem to be easy to pronounce. His real name is Uno, and it reads, "The Brotherhood of the Q raise Uno to wear the helmet of Quetzalcoatl and defend the city of Vanity and the world against the shadow god Tezcatlipoca." I'm pretty sure I mispronounced that name. When Uno arrived in Vanity, however, he encountered a vigilante named Bloodtype, aka Dr. Curtis Falconer. Bloodtype died after their battle, but not before he told Uno that he was about to start work at St. Bartholomew's Hospital that very day. Deciding he needed a civilian identity, Uno impersonated Falconer, protecting Vanity as a superhero later dubbed Aztek by the press. After team-ups with Green Lantern and Batman, Aztek briefly joined the JOA, but died attacking the living planet Magadon. I think that's how you say that. The supposed second coming of Tezcatlipoca. And that's a really good read-up on who Aztek is as a character. And I'm not really familiar with this character, but I have seen his design before, because if you watched Justice League, the animated series, I believe it was in the Unlimited season, there were a few times that this character appeared in the background. And there was one time where he actually was standing next to Superman, where they were trying to solve some sort of, problem or something. I don't remember what the episode was about. And that was the only episode where the character actually spoke, which was actually surprising. But that's it. That's the only time I've ever seen this character. But outside of that, I don't know much about this character's backstory at all. And like I said in previous reviews that I've done for DC Multiverse figures, especially for characters that I've never heard of, this is the one thing I love about this line, is when they do give characters like this a spotlight, because as you know, Mcfarlane has an obsession with Batman figures, and there are a lot of Batman figures, right? But once in a while, whenever they make figures of characters that most of you, including myself, have never heard of, I know some people are probably going to be like, oh, that's not interesting, that looks boring. But for me, I like when they tackle the characters that are niche and obscure. Now, is this character niche? I can't say that because I don't know if he's considered an obscure character. Maybe he's not. Maybe a lot of people know who this character is. That's the one thing I love about this line, is whenever they give us characters like this, it's fun to chase after. However, I wish they were not released as Red Platinums, because that's what makes it hard to get for these type of characters. If you can't find the chase, then you can't find the figure. And making them a Red Platinum, I think, is probably the worst way of releasing this character. But Mcfarlane, of course, does this so then they can make a limited quantity of these figures so they don't have to put too much cost into them, which I think is just stupid, because honestly, I think most people would probably pick up this figure regardless, right? Especially if you are building a DC Multiverse shelf, you're going to want every single character, even if it's a character that you don't have, but you still think they look cool and you don't know who they are, but their design stands out to you, you would want them for your shelf. And that's the kind of logic that I usually apply for most of these figures and characters that I've never heard of, because looking at him, his design stands out to me. When it comes to accessories, this figure does come with interchangeable hands. So as you can see on the figure right now, he does have his fist hands equipped. Those are not the hands that were equipped on him by default in the packaging. The hands that are actually equipped to him in the package are these open gesture hands. And they do have a bit of a wash to them. I don't know why they're painted this way with these darker stains or something to them, but it does make the paint details stand out a little bit. So, it's not completely bad. But yeah, he has these two hands, and that's basically it. That's all the accessories he has. Is it the bare minimum? I would say yes, it's the bare minimum, but not exactly, because he should come with maybe just a few more hands or an alternate head sculpt, in my opinion. But of course, this is Mcfarlane that we're talking about. And there was a wave of figures that came out recently, 2 figures in particular, that didn't come with any accessories at all. So yeah, this whole thing with this line having the lack of accessories is a real problem. Okay, that's all the accessories that he has. And the last thing that he comes with, if you do want to include it as an accessory, is the DC figure stand. And that's pretty much it. So with all that said, let's move on to the aesthetics of this figure. Taking a closer look at Aztek here, I can't tell what figure mold he's reusing, but I know he's definitely reusing parts for sure because they've been doing this for a while now. So in terms of the figure mold itself, if you do know which figure they are reusing the body from, let me know in the comments below because I can't tell. I don't recognize this body buck. Maybe the legs look familiar because I've definitely seen these boots from somewhere for sure. But let's talk about the retooled areas that are all brand new sculpt because there are some new sculpt going on here on this body buck that is reuse of some kind. So up here, he does have his like armor parts right here for the shoulders, which do have this nice sculpt going on. You have his logo right here. You have these sort of like sculpted gold parts that have these details to them that form the top part of the armor here, which is nicely painted. It is a nice sort of gold color, and there is a wash to it, which I do like. And then on the side, you do have these shoulder parts right here, which I don't know if they act as shoulder armor, but they are part of the design of his suit. And I like the fact that they're circular, and they also have a wash going on as well. And then, of course, his head sculpt. He is wearing the helmet of Quetzalcoatl. The way that they sculpted the helmet is nicely done. These parts up here are a sort of like soft plastic, but at the same time, they do have some sort of thickness to them where they don't feel so flimsy. So that's cool to know that they're not the usual thing that will warp easily during the summer weather because, as you know, with some of these figures, they use soft plastic for certain parts. And for the expression that he has, he looks like he's smiling confidently. He doesn't look like he's mad or anything. So I think the expression is decent. And then, of course, his eyes are all white because he's wearing a mask. Superhero logic, right? The mask, when they put it on, they got the all white eyes. Not a bad sort of design here. Now, my copy of the figure is really weird right here with the mouth because I don't know if it's a paint QC problem, but you can see that there is some white bits that are like kind of unfinished on here. I don't know if my camera is showing it properly, but in person, it looks like there's like a white filter over his mouth, which shouldn't be there. But, you know, I can't complain because I only found one copy of this figure. Well, actually, I found the second one, but, you know, when I found this first one initially, I thought this was the only chance I had, so I picked it up then and there. And then the other copy I saw did not have this sort of thing, so, you know, but I'm not buying 2 of the same figures. I don't want to do that. I know some people do, but for me, 1 is enough for me. So there is the head sculpt. It's nicely done. I think it came out all right. And also there are some details right there with his helmet. So yeah, not a bad look for the character. And then for his arms down here, he does have these gauntlets that are also nicely painted with the gold and then this sort of like black wash over it to give it this sort of battle damage, which I do like. I wish they sat a little bit higher because if they did, it would at least cover one of these pins. Because I like when they do this sort of thing where when they sculpt gauntlets and they cover the pin part for the arm on the lower arm and then the upper arm right here closer to the shoulder, you know, you can leave the pins exposed there. But it's always nice when they try to cover up the pins. So there is the gauntlet on this side. On this side, the gauntlet, surprisingly, is actually loose. So this is the funny thing. There is this weird QC problem with my figure where this is supposed to be glued on. It's not removable. Now, I can't take this off. I don't think it's supposed to come off, but for some reason on this arm, it actually can rotate. I don't know if I can show that. Let me just kind of pull it. No, it's not. Wow, it chooses not to work now when I'm recording the review. Isn't that funny? So yeah, it moves sometimes. Like it loosens up and then it just starts like kind of rotating. when you move this arm sometimes on my copy, which is really weird, but it's not supposed to do that. I think they just forgot to glue it shut. So that is something I just want to point out. But as you can see, there is more of a wash over here as well. And now let's move down to the belts. For his belt, it is very basic looking. It's just a gold color belt with these rectangular shapes that, you know, go all the way to the backside here. And that's pretty much all I can say for the belt. And then for this part of the costume, the underwear, as we like to call it for superheroes, right? Because it looks like they're wearing underwear on the outside. It has the same wash as the hands, with the black sort of like wash over this teal color. I don't know if it's teal or blue, whatever this sort of blue is called. It looks like teal, actually, like a darker color of teal. So it's like a wash over here. And, you know, on the back, they also have the wash as well. However, one thing I very dislike, if we look closer on the back here, whichever focuses, you can see the product information on his butt, which is one of the worst places to put this stuff. Usually this sort of product information stuff is all the way down on his like boots down here, right? Like his shoes, his feet. But on this copy, they're like, nah, we're just gonna put it on the back of his butt. And there you go. It's like exposed. It's not even hidden. So it looks really bad on the backside. And this is not the first time they've done this. I found out that my Jessica Cruz figure also has the same problem, where the product information was on the back of her lower stomach area on the back of the figure. And it's just exposed. Like, you can see it. Usually they try to hide this stuff as much as possible, but I guess because it's the final year of the DC Multiverse line under Mcfarlane Toys, I guess they just don't give a crap anymore. So that's why we're seeing stuff like this. Alright, let's move down to the legs. So of course the legs are reuse of somebody, because I've definitely seen these boots before, the way that this is sculpted. But as you can see, it's all painted in this nice gold color with the same sort of wash that we have going up at the top areas with all the gold. So overall, when it comes to the aesthetics of the look of the figure, I think they did a pretty good job with the paint. Except for the white areas, I feel like they could have applied a wash to the white parts of the suit, because, you know, you have all this wash going on with the gold, the teal area of the blue, whatever this color is. It just makes more sense if you also applied some wash to the white areas of the suit as well. So yeah, kind of a missed opportunity there, but there you go. There is the aesthetics to Aztek. I think this figure came out fine. It does have some weird proportions with his legs for my copy. I don't know if it's because it was the packaging or something, but this side of the leg looks like it's curving this way. This side is just going straight. I don't know if I can fix this with hot water, but overall, it's not a bad looking figure, and I'm happy to have this in the collection. And if you haven't found a copy of this figure yet, I do hope you do find one, because he is a pretty good character to add to your collection, even if you don't know anything about him. He's still a fun one to have, I think. Now, let's move on to the articulation of this figure. Starting off with the articulation of his head sculpt, can he look up? Yes, he can. He can look up with no problems. Can he look down? Kinda, not the best. Turn his head left and right, he can do. Tilt his head side to side, not an issue. So the overall range of motion for the head sculpt is decent. Now let's move down to his arms. So since he does have this sort of like shoulder armor thing going on here, his arms are definitely going to be limited. So if you're wondering if he can go all the way to the back, like swing back and forth all the way, no, he's going to run into this top part here. Luckily, this is not connected to the shoulders, but you're not going to get that range. However, you could technically rotate the arm all the way back if you do something like this, which isn't proper. So this is not great. That's all the range of motion you get for swinging the arms back and forth like this. He does have an upper bicep rotation right there. He also has double jointed in the arms. He has swivel in the hands and wrist articulation. For his upper torso cut, he does have a good range of motion when it comes to rotation, but when it comes to leaning back, He can lean back all the way, which is great. And you can also see that there's a lot of gappage right there when he does do that. Leaning forward, yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's not the worst, not the best, but like at least it works. You know, I would rather him be able to lean forward just like how he can lean back all the way. But, you know, sometimes they can barely even do this. So there's that. And then for his waist, it can rotate. No, not on my copy. It is very stiff. Oh, no. Oh, actually, no. There we go. It's moving. Yay. It's not stiff. So it can rotate. It can lean back, lean forward a little bit. It's really restricted, but yeah, it can definitely rotate. So there is the waist rotation right there for the figure. Moving down to the legs. Can he do the splits? Yes, he can. He can definitely do the splits. Look at that. That is amazing. Can he kick out? That's as much as he's going to kick out, which is not that good. But, you know, for a Mcfarlane figure, that's considered a decent kick. Yeah. All right. Double jointed in the legs. Does it work? Yes, it does. There we go. It's quite stiff. So double jointed, articulation in the feet, swivel, and toe articulation. And of course, the last thing we have to confirm. Does this guy have upper thigh swivels? And I just noticed something. His belt is also loose too. Wait, before we get to the whole thigh swivels, look at this. It's coming off. I think it's supposed to be glued on, right? Like, it looks like it connects to this part right here, but it's not glued. Okay, that is not good. I might have to fix that when I'm done with the review today. All right, let's move on to the thigh swivels, as I was saying. Does he have any? No, he does not. That is unfortunate. They don't even rotate. Yep, there you go. Sometimes they have it, sometimes they don't. Or maybe it's just way too stiff, and then that's why it's not working. But yeah, there is all the articulation for Aztek here. And you could get him into some decent action poses. That's pretty much it for his articulation. It does have some restrictions for sure. So posing-wise, you're just going to have to get creative or do some modifications if needed. Now that we're done with the articulation segment, let's move on to some comparisons. For the first comparison, here he is next to Martian Manhunter. This is the recent Page Punchers version that came out back in May of this year. And as this character's bio description said, he was briefly part of the Justice League of America. So of course he may have interacted with characters like Martian Manhunter. So if you do want to put him in your Justice League display, you can, because he was part of that team at some point in comic history. So there is the comparison between these two, and you can also see that there is a height difference. He is much taller than Martian Manhunter. And for the next comparison, here he is next to Failsafe. And yeah, Failsafe is of course taller than him. So there is this comparison. And for the next comparison, here he is next to a random figure that is not from the DC Multiverse line. This is from the Furay Planets Maestro Union, the tiger guy. I don't remember his name. This is that figure. You might have seen this one if you've been on the internet around like 2 years ago. If you've been following action figure stuff, a lot of people are talking about this figure. So there is this guy right there. And for the last comparison, just to make it fun, here he is next to Tails from the DC Sonic crossover. So there you go. There's a scale between them. He's much taller than Tails. And that is going to do for today's comparison. And if you found today's review of Aztek informative, do give this video a like. If you want to subscribe to the channel for more action figure content and whatever else I do on here, it would be much appreciated. And with that said, take care, and I will see you in the next video.